Hi guys, welcome to day two. If able to, I'd appreciate it if you turn your camera on so I can see your smiling face. Any questions or issues, concerns, worries about the quiz? Seems like that seemed to go okay. For most people, a couple of you had some technical issues.
What was your honest expectation out of us, out of this first quiz? As far as grades go, what's your expectation?
Hey, Omar, can you mute your microphone? Anybody have any questions or concerns about the quiz?
I have a question, Professor.
Yes.
So I took the quiz in like the library, but like I had a mask on. So like, will that like flag anything on like the respondents?
Yeah, so we talked about that last time we met. If you are in a setting where you have to wear a mask, then of course you have to wear a mask. So what I think works with Respondus is when it's trying to do facial recognition at the beginning of the quiz, if you could take your mask off just for the initiation, and then you can put your mask back on. You will receive a flag probably that Respondus is not able to engage in facial recognition, but that's okay. I understand you need to wear a mask and you need to wear a mask.
Thanks.
Sure. Any other questions?
Is there any chance we would be able to see the results of our quiz so that we could see what we got wrong?
Unfortunately, Jasmine, I can't do that. If you have a quiz that you do, you don't do as well as you really wanted to, or you have specific questions about issues on the quiz, I'm happy to answer those individually. But with so many students in the class, I can't do that for everybody for every quiz. But like I said, if there are particular issues, please feel free to contact me about quizzes. For this one, the best thing to do is go back and look at the Des Moines online course because all of the questions were derived from that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Melky, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, there's a few different patho teams opened. So I mean, I know some people are in different groups right now.
Oh, well, that's a problem. So I think part of it is one or two of you initiated your own teams groups, and I can't control that. So you have to just make sure you use the invitation that's in your calendar invite that I sent. So
Okay.
if are people texting you, Malky, to tell you this, or how do you know?
Well, I was in a different group because I
Okay.
saw that something was open, so I joined it, and then no one was on. There was just silence, but people were on it.
Okay, maybe I don't know if you have the ability to pop in one of those groups and just tell people that they need to use the invitation that came through Outlook from me.
Okay, I'll let them know.
Because there are a couple other Pathophys groups that students have created, and that's great. I mean, I want you to do that and collaborate with each other, but obviously it's a problem if people are popping into the wrong meeting.
Right. Okay. I'll try to let them know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions before we get moving? Any other outstanding issues that you want me to address? So, okay. All right. Well, feel free to put something in the chat box. If you have any questions, I've got it open now, and so put something in the meeting chat if you have a particular question that you'd like me to answer as we go along, or feel free to raise your hand. So I wanted to start out by talking a little bit about the logistics and just make sure everybody's on board with that, understands the plan. So because of the pandemic, and we're all hoping that that's going to change fairly soon, but I think for the rest of the semester, we're going to be under similar conditions that we have been over the last semester. We can only have half the number of students in the classroom in Johnson. So every day we have class. Half of you will be here on campus live in the room, and half of you will be on Teams. Okay, and if you need to know which half you're in, look at the schedule, right? Because it's not Monday, Friday, because sometimes we have exams and then nobody's in class. So on days that we have tests, everybody's just online. But it's not a Monday, Friday pattern for anybody. It changes. So make sure you look at the schedule, okay? Because sometimes you'll be in class on Monday, sometimes you'll be on Teams, and vice versa on Fridays. So make sure you take a look at that. Another just quick reminder to be sure that you do the pre-test as a part of Imran Khan's study. If you're willing, there's absolutely no risk to you. It's totally anonymous. No one will ever know your results except one person who's not me and not Dr. Choi and not even Imran. It's a third party who's not involved. She's the only one who will know your identity. And it is important data for us to collect so that we can see how Imran's intervention affects people. And like I said, you guys are the control group. So it helps us to have a control group to see how it compares to the people who have the intervention. Jasmine, you have a question.
Yes, so is this a research study quiz for points in our class?
I have in the syllabus, I have 5 points for just completion. All you have to do is complete it. So even if you take it and you don't get a good score, you still get the 5 points.
Okay, all right, sounds good.
Yeah. Other questions about that? And then you also have to fill out a consent form because it's a research study. And so you have the option to not consent. And if you do consent, then you have to fill that form out. It's pretty straightforward. There's a link in the announcements in the Canvas shell. If you look under the study announcement, there's a link there. You just click on it. It's a Google form. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the core case list. If you look in the Canvas shell under the cases tab, there's something called the core case list. Under the cases tab, you'll see two sets of cases. One is a list of the cases that are on the final exam. That's a long way off, right? That's not until May, so you don't need to worry too much about that yet. The other list is all of the cases that are represented on the exams and much of our work. So as you'll discover, some of the tests early on in the course do have some sort of straightforward fact-based knowledge type questions, but most of the questions are going to be case-based. So that means that you're going to have a case that you're going to need to examine as a part of the question. And so it's a good idea to practice those practice questions that are also in Canvas to get a sense of the kinds of questions. That's another reason to take the pre-test, because that'll give you a really good sense of the types of questions that you're going to face, because all of the questions on the pre-test are case-based questions. Right? So when you're reviewing for a quiz or an exam, you should always look at the core case list. And that's a great way to review. And again, my suggestion, and now I'm in my office today, so it's a little different, but I'm gonna again suggest this book, which if you're able to, again, you can see this is a 2013 edition, so I think I actually got this one for 10 bucks. It's used, but not a whole lot has changed with clinical medicine in the last 7 years. Every single condition is represented by 2 pages. So here's epididymitis, and they're all of it is arranged the same way. So it has the critical stuff. Actually, what you need to know for this course is all on the first page. There's a little bit on the second page that might be worth looking at, but most of what you need to know is on the first page. So again, it's called the 5-minute clinical consult, and I think that for your career in healthcare, it's a textbook that would be really useful to have, because when you're taking care of a patient, just flip it open. Oh, you can buy an electronic version. I know you guys like to have stuff right on your phones, which is great. You can buy an electronic version that you can have on your phone. That's going to be a little bit more expensive, though. I did review the Respondus videos and audio recordings from the practice test, and just a couple reminders. It's important for you not to have backlighting. What is backlighting? Backlighting means that the source of the light is coming from behind you. So right now, for example, my image is not real good, right? My image isn't good because I don't have any light coming in front of me. A lot of the lighting's coming, the lighting is coming from behind. And that's called backlighting. And what that does is it does what's happening now in my image. It washes out the image of your face. And because the program uses facial recognition, it has a hard time accomplishing facial recognition if you don't have lighting in front of you. So the best thing to do is be in a situation where the lighting is coming from in front of you and not behind, right? Other issues where you need to keep the image of your face needs to fill most of the camera, right? So sometimes a lot of you, like, you're thinking and you bend over a lot and then it says you can't recognize your face. So just try to make sure your camera is pointed in the right direction. Otherwise, I think I heard from a handful of you about technical issues. I think we hopefully got those all resolved. All right. Let me show you one of the other resources that I am particularly fond of. It is called Osmosis, and it's designed for students in healthcare. It was originally developed for medical students, but they've expanded it quite a bit, and they now are targeting all sorts of students in healthcare. And like I said last time, you can register for the free version and identify yourself as a nursing student. But I wanted to share with you one of those, so I'm going to project my screen. Okay, and let me know if this works for you.
Practice questions and flashcards, and so much more.
Can you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear that.
Thank you.
Try it free today.
Breast cancer, or breast carcinoma, is an uncontrolled growth of epithelial cells within the breast. It's the second most common cancer in women, but can also, on rare occasion, affect men as well. Breast cancer is also the second leading cause of cancer deaths in women, after lung cancer. This is largely due to the fact that oftentimes breast cancers don't cause any pain or discomfort until they spread to nearby tissues. The breasts are milk-producing glands that sit on the chest wall, on either side of the breastbone. They lie on top of the ribs and the pectoral muscles, and they're divided into three main parts. The glandular tissue that makes the milk is made up of 15 to 20 lobules. Inside each of these lie a bunch of grape-like structures called the alveoli, which are modified sweat glands surrounded by a basement membrane made largely of collagen. Zooming in on the alveoli, there's a layer of alveolar cells that secrete breast milk into the lumen, which is the space in the center of the gland. Wrapping around the alveolus are special myoepithelial cells that squeeze down and push the milk out of the lumen of the alveolus, down the lactiferous ducts, and out one of the pores of the nipple. Now, surrounding the glandular tissue is the stroma, which contains adipose or fat tissue, and this makes up the majority of the breast. Suspensory ligaments called Cooper's ligaments run through the stroma and help keep it in place. These ligaments attach to the inner surface of the breast on one end and the pectoralis muscle on the other. Just beneath the skin covering the breast, there's a network of tiny lymphatic vessels that drain the lymph, which is a fluid containing cellular waste products and white blood cells. These lymphatic vessels mainly drain into a group of lymph nodes in the axilla, or the armpit. Now, the cells of glandular tissue have receptors for certain hormones, like estrogen and progesterone, which are released by the ovaries, and prolactin, which is released by the pituitary gland. These hormones stimulate the alveolar cells to divide and increase in number, which makes the lobule enlarge. Without these hormones, the glandular cells, particularly the alveolar cells, can't survive and undergo apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. For example, after menopause, estrogen production stops, which leads to death of the alveolar cells, and over time that breast tissue gets replaced by fat. During the menstrual cycle, there's increased secretion of estrogen and progesterone from the ovaries, and right after menstruation, that secretion decreases. As a result, during every menstrual cycle, the alveolar cells undergo division and apoptosis. Men have some breast tissue as well, but they lack milk-secreting alveoli. Each time cells divide, there's a chance that a genetic mutation will occur, and a mutation can lead to tumor formation. So with more menstrual cycles, there's an increased risk of tumor formation. That's why there's an increased risk of breast cancer with things that increase the number of menstrual cycles, like early age of menarche, which is the first menstrual bleeding, and late age of menopause. Similarly, medications containing estrogen also increase the risk of breast cancer. There are also other environmental risk factors such as ionizing radiation, like from chest x-rays and CT scans. On the flip side, some things that are associated with a decreased risk of breast cancer include early pregnancy and a longer time breastfeeding. Breast cancer has also been linked to specific mutations in tumor suppressor genes, such as breast cancer gene, or BRCA1 and BRCA2, and TP53, which normally slow down cell division or make cells die if they divide uncontrollably. Mutations in BRCA1 or BRCA2 are both autosomal dominant mutations, which can be inherited and cause familial breast cancer. In addition to breast cancer, they also cause an increased risk of ovarian cancer. Some breast cancers also have mutations in the ERBB2 gene that increase human epidermal growth factor receptor 2, or HER2, which, when activated, promotes the growth of cells. In males, breast cancer is usually caused by inherited mutations in the BRCA1 and 2 genes.
Okay, you guys definitely don't need to be eating Big Macs, so we're not going to watch an ad for McDonald's. Even though I know I'll see a lot of you across the street over there when you're actually on campus. But you get the idea, right? These videos are all about 10 minutes or so. They're all done in the same way. So you see this sort of style. They only have a couple different narrators, so you get used to a particular narrator. And I like the animation. I like sort of the graphic representation of the teaching points. So I think you'll find them useful. And again, you can decide on your own. Take a look at some of them and see what you think. It looks like David, you have your hand up.
Yeah, this was before we mentioned osmosis. So there in the course case list, it says like a diagram and it says PCS case and 100 cases. I'm just trying to understand what are these referring to?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I forgot to mention that. So at the bottom of Canvas, or actually it's toward the top. I moved it up. At the top of Canvas, there's one of the modules that has just practice cases in it. And they come from two sources. There's one source called 100 Cases in Pathophysiology, and the other source is called Case Studies in Pathophysiology. And so those references in the core case list are to those cases. So you can find those cases among the case examples that are posted to Canvas.
So let's just say there's one that says cardiovascular dysrhythmia. Wait, wrong one. There's one that says cardiomyopathy, and it says PC case number 19.
Right. So that's the one of those two case references. That's the case number 19 in those case references. So if you look in Canvas, and I can share my screen and show you if you
Yeah,
want
that'd be great.
exactly
I don't
where to
know where to
look.
look at.
So it's right here. So here's what you guys see. So if you scroll down a bit beyond sort of all the introductory modules, there are practice cases here with multiple choice questions. And these come from two sources. So the first one is case studies in pathophysiology. So that's CSP. If you open that, you can see that the cases will all be numbered. It's going to take a little while to download it because it's a big file. And you can actually import this to your own computer if you want to do that. That's a little bit, makes it easier instead of going through Canvas. But all of these case studies here, sorry, again, it's taking a little while for the computer to catch up. You'll see they're all numbered, and they're presented as case studies. So they're very similar to how we're going to present content in class. Much of it is going to be case-based. Sorry, I'm still stuck in the, let's get a little farther down here and we'll get an actual case for you to look at. So this is one of two, but you can see here, this is case study 16, which is on lung cancer, right? So the cases are all numbered, and you can see that, I'm getting back to the beginning here, there's an actual description of a patient with the condition. It gives their entire history, including things like social history and past medical history, the patient's chief complaint, the history of present illness, past medical history, family history, social history,